Hi, I'm Paul James Caden. I am an ordained spiritualist minister, certified angel medium, angel card reader, spiritual counselor, and trance medium healer. In this podcast, we will endeavor to talk about things that are happening in our world from a spiritual and balanced perspective. We will also talk about such things as spirituality, spiritualism, the paranormal, angels, ghosts, and all things that pertain to your personal and spiritual well-being. I hope that you'll join me as we explore a plethora of topics and try to make a difference through this humble show. I'll see you all on the spirit side. Greetings, everyone. This is Paul James Caden, and may I say some words that I have not said in a very long time now, and that is, welcome to the Spirit Side Podcast. I'm sure some of you are wondering why we have gone back to the Spirit Side after all this time. This particular podcast, my secondary podcast that I do, I've been flipping it around a little bit, different ideas. Trying to find what fits. And it's been a little bit of an experiment, but I think the decision was made for me because a lot of people have been emailing for a while, contacting me and saying, hey, bring back the Spirit Side. It was a great podcast. We still listen to the old Spirit Side podcasts that are deep in the queue of the 1159 podcast. And at first I wasn't going to do it, but then it just struck me that it feels right and it should be done because the Spirit Side was and is a podcast that wasn't so very specialized. Things like 1159 or Spiritualist Talk, they're a little bit more specialized podcast in what they talk about. The Spirit Side always had a wide range of influence and topics, looking at things happening in our world through that balanced and spiritual perspective. It talked about spirituality. It talked about the paranormal, a whole host of things. And that's why I feel that it needed to make a comeback, because I'm not going to lie, the world is really in a crazy place. And when I did the last 1159 podcast, actually every time I do an 1159 podcast, I have to bite my tongue because it's not an overly spiritual podcast. It has hints of spirituality in it, but I wanted to make that particular podcast something that's more reporting the news or an opinion piece of what's happening in our world with maybe a little dash of spiritual or philosophical thought here and there, but not overly done. But it's hard for me not to really jump into the whole spiritual aspect of these things, and that's why, not only because there are a number of people that wanted the Spirit Side to come back, but also, I think a show like this is needed now, where we talk about some of these topics from the spiritual perspective. And so here we are. I've decided to bring it back. It feels absolutely right. It feels very good. I'm going to give it a bit of I think I'm going to give it a bit of an upgrade in its resurrection. The first time was my very first podcast was the Spirit Side. I was a little more reserved on some of the spiritual thoughts that I would share. This time around, maybe not so much. I'm not going to push anything on anybody, But if I feel that something needs to be said, I'm certainly going to say it, because this is not a time and a day that we live in to be tiptoeing around the rose bush, so to speak. And I guess all that being said, the topic I want to get into today, and why I call this podcast, It's a Mad, Mad World. Because there's a lot going on. All you have to do is listen to my 1159 podcast and you see that it's absolutely horrendous out there. People don't think. People don't care. We have Christians, the Bible Belt in America, many Christians. There was an article that I read in part on the 1159 where it says the Bible Belt loses God but finds Donald Trump. Politician worship. Everybody's leaving spiritual values behind. It's all about them, what they want. There's so many people out there saying, "Oh, I'm preaching the word," and it's charlatans and just people that are preaching the old fear and hellfire and brimstone, and everything's topsy-turvy. You know, there's the article I shared in the last 1159 podcast about the administration in the White House giving the okay for a new bee-killing pesticide to be used on plants and crops. And at the same time, they said, we're not going to monitor the dying of the bees anymore. We're not even going to monitor how this new bee-killing pesticide affects the bees. That whole looking into the bee thing is suspended indefinitely. They just don't care. So there's a lot of people making a lot of bad decisions, and I feel that a lot of people are really motivated by just evil and darkness and greed and power. Even religion, nobody knows where to turn because it's off the rails in so many ways. And I know that feeling, you know, I know that feeling. I was in, many of you heard me say it time and time again, I was in evangelical fundamentalist Christianity. And I was there when it really, really went off the tracks and went bad. And I got out. That's why I got out, when I saw it turning into this very negative, very hellfire, brimstone, hateful. And people just following these pastors and priests and televangelists like rats following the Pied Piper to their doom. And that's why we have religious people worshiping politicians today, because that brand of Christianity became very political, very motivated by money. And, you know, when it started going off the rails, I was out. You know, I said, this isn't God. This isn't how God is. I'm taking my chances elsewhere. And I did some seeking. I did some searching. I looked into some other alternative spiritual paths, and I learned a lot of things, and I learned how much a lot of religions and spiritual paths have more in common than we think they do, if we're not sitting there in judgment over them. But nonetheless, you know, I don't want to digress into that, but yeah, just a real mess out there. And listen, you know, I'm not going to sit here and take baby steps with this. It is bad. And I'm going to say straight out, I completely abandon organized religion, fundamentalism, evangelical, you know, whatever. But I never really abandoned the teachings of Christ. And many of you know that I've been a student of biblical prophecy for many years. I really started digging into this in the winter of 1991, I believe it was, and I studied a lot, and these prophecies, they're not. Well, let's just say this to begin with. They say this would happen. People being greedy, chasing after money, hating one another, hating God, hating anything to do with God. They talked about the waters being polluted, the land being polluted, the sun becoming hotter and scorching a third of the land and killing a third of the people. The beasts of the field dying off, the creatures in the sea dying off, the seawaters becoming bitter and polluted. And we're seeing all that happen right now, and it's so sad that, me and my wife went out to dinner this past weekend, and we were talking about how the sun is just white and bright. Back in the day, you could look up at the sun and look at the sky next to the sun, and you could see get a glimpse of the sun out of your peripheral vision. You can't look anywhere near the sun now. We're talking how bright it is. It's like frying your eyeballs in your head. If you try to look anywhere near it, you can't. And how on a cool day, it's still searing and burning your skin if you step into the direct sunlight. And while we were out to eat, I said, I wonder if other people notice. I asked the waitress. I've asked several different people or more since that time. Have you noticed that the sun is a lot brighter and hotter than it used to be? And only one person said, yeah, I think it is. Everyone else said no. Nope, haven't noticed. Tell you the truth, I don't really look up into the sky. It seems like it's the same to me. People don't see these things that are happening. They're just living this life in this world, in this particular system that has been constructed by man and governments and big industry. And they don't even realize what's going on around them. But there were people years ago, thousands of years ago, who said this would happen. And it's happening. Now, I'm not going to sit here and preach you an old-time religion message. That's not my thing. That's not what I'm about. But I'm saying no matter what your spiritual path is, you need to know these things and you need to be ready. And when I say ready, I mean mentally and mostly spiritually ready. And when I say spiritually ready, I mean we need those of us who have an ounce of awareness within us. We need to stop being angry and afraid. I mean, it does make you angry when you see, people doing the things that they do. I was angry when I read that story on 1159 about the current administration giving the okay for this bee-killing pesticide and not tracking how it's going to affect the bees. Meanwhile, 40% of the honeybee population is gone. And we know that when they are completely gone, when all the pollinating bees are gone, we have 4 to 5 years max to live on this earth, and we're done. But these people, they don't care. Because they think their money and their power is going to save them. They're going to go to the moon. They're going to create robot bees to pollinate the crops. They don't care about anything. And they think their money is going to save them. It's not. It's absolutely not. And those old prophecies talk about that too, that there will be those rich people, those individuals who are so very corrupt. And when the final hammer falls, they'll be throwing their gold and silver in the streets. It's worthless to them. And they know it. Whether that's literal, whether that's a metaphor, it's saying the time is going to come when they realize their money, their power, their influence, their position, everything they've gained in this life, all the plans they've made to make themselves out to be the elites and the masters of the universe and the lords of the earth, they're going to realize it's worth nothing and it can't help them. And it won't. And then what happens to them next? Hey, that's between them and God. You know, I'm a spiritualist. I believe that, as I said in Spiritualist Talk, that there's always room for progress of the human soul. So will they progress? Will they learn from their mistakes when they leave this mortal coil? Or will they go to the very lower spiritual levels? And it's possible that some will hold so tightly onto that darkness that they remain there forever, but that's their choice. They can't let go of it. They can't let go of the anger. They can't let go of the resentment toward God that everything I worked for in my human life, everything I had, you, God, you made it worthless. You made it so I couldn't save myself, and I hate you. And I'll hate you, and I'll be bitter toward you forever. That's the kind of person that could potentially be in a place of darkness for eternity, but that it will be their choice. But now I was saying, for you and I, these things can make us mad when we see it happening. It can make us mad. It can make us feel sad when we see the way people act. No one wants friendships anymore. No one wants relationships anymore. Man, I feel bad for the people who are single and just looking for their person out there, because how do you find your person when everybody's just so wrapped up in their own little lives and social media and partying and whatever else? Everybody's independent. I'm not giving anything up for no man. I'm not giving anything up for any woman. You take me as I am, and I need my space. It's all about me. That's sad. But again, you and I, the people with an ounce of awakening in our consciousness, though what makes us mad, though what makes us sad, though it sometimes makes us feel afraid when we see the way people are acting and the direction that the world is going in, we have to give ourselves the wake-up call. We have to be able to look at ourselves and say, you know what? This isn't going to be forever. One of two things are going to happen inevitably. I'm going to pass away. I'm going to leave this world. Or this world is going to have its final day. And then every soul will reap what it has sown. And you know, those same prophecies from the Bible talk about And many of you know this when it talks about the world being destroyed by fire, then the new heavens and the new earth are created. Actually, if you dig into that a little bit, again, whether that's literal or whether that's figurative, it says in the Old Testament that the earth, even the universe, has been basically polluted by our energy, our sin, doing the wrong thing all the time. And that there comes a point when all this has to be done away with and a new pure heavens and a new pure earth are made, where nothing's tainted, nothing's polluted, nothing's holding that energy of just mankind always doing the terrible and wrong thing. And I've said this before on podcasts. You walk into a room where people are arguing, you walk into a room where people are very negative and sneaky, and you feel it. Nobody has to say a word, and you don't have to know one person in that room, and you'll say, man, this place, these people give me the creeps, something's wrong, I want out ASAP. We've all had that happen. So now picture planet Earth as one big giant room that we're all living in. And think about how much negative thought and energy and words and actions people are putting out there and how it's affecting this environment. And then add to that all the stuff we're dumping into the environment, the soil, the water, the air. And we wonder why there's earthquakes all over. We wonder why there's severe storm patterns like never before. We wonder why everything's going crazy around us in the environment. Because we're destroying this place and we're destroying one another. And those of us with that ounce of awakening and consciousness, we have to step back from that. The kids are too far down the slide on the playground, man, to reach out and grab them and bring them back to the top. A lot of people in this world have chosen their course, ladies and gentlemen. And some will be able to help. Many we won't. Many people want to stay asleep. Many people want to continue with the life that they're living, and they don't care. And they won't care. Right up to the end, they won't care. So you have a choice. You and I have a choice. And that is, we can go running down that slippery slope after them, yelling and screaming and cursing. Give me what I want. Give me the love that I deserve. Give me the money I deserve. Give me the job I deserve. I want what's mine. I've had a hard life. I'm tired of people being rotten to me. I'm tired of bad luck. I want what's mine. And we can go running and screaming right behind them, for lack of a better term, right into the bowels of hell. Or we can just hands off, man, and say, look, they're too far gone down that path. I'm not running after them. I may walk with some of them for a certain few miles and try to get them to turn around and go in the opposite direction. But there's a time when you're just going to even have to stop with that and head to your own refuge. And we shouldn't be scared, and we shouldn't be angry. Because if we're trying to do the right thing, if we're trying to live our lives rightly, if we're living by love, if we're really trying to help other people, if we're staying out of that melee of fighting and greed and violence and nobody cares, then we know where we're going. We know that our souls are going to progress. And many people that have had the near-death experience, they don't fear death anymore. They don't get involved in all the craziness in this world anymore. Many of them just go and do their own thing. They want a more peaceful life. If you haven't studied near-death encounters, you need to look into some of them, because a lot of them were people who were big, high industry CEO people living in the rat race. Something happened. They had a near-death experience. And when they came back, they just said, all this is frivolous. I don't need all this. It's all about love. It's all about peace. It's all about being good to one another and the planet and the animals. And they completely changed their lives. And that just goes to show, I believe, living illustrations of people who have glimpsed the other side and came back, completely changed their lives, walked away from all that, felt no need, it was not important to them anymore. That just goes to show how really worthless this system created by man really is. That when you glimpse the truth, when you see the truth, even when you know the truth within yourself, you get that glimpse of God. You get that glimpse of something better. Maybe you just felt it within yourself. Maybe you were fortunate enough to see an angel. When you glimpse something like that, you just realize, man, all that money, all that junk, all that running after power and fame and stuff, it doesn't matter. That's not what's important. And it all pales in comparison to this higher truth, this higher love, this higher way of being, this higher dimension of reality that we're all going to when we leave this world. And then when you look at the events happening on the earth, you're not mad, you're not scared, you're not feeling sorry for yourself. You're feeling bad for the people that are running down that path, running down that road to their own hurt and demise. And you start wanting to help, you start reaching out, you start putting yourself out there. You do what you can, you pray. And you're not afraid because you know there's somebody, there's this greater force out there. And man, they got your back and they love you more than anybody has ever loved you in your life in this world. And that just gives you courage and peace and faith. And man, it feels great. And every single one of us can have that in our lives. It doesn't matter who we are. It doesn't matter what religion we've been brought up in. It doesn't matter if we're rich or poor or people like us or they don't like us. We can all have that. That's what we're supposed to have. That is God's gift to us when we turn toward the light and just say, you know what? I want something better. I want you. And man, that makes all of the difference in the world. So don't be afraid. Don't let yourself be mad and upset. And also don't be so desperate that you jump in over your head in that polluted swamp that the world is living in, trying to find your happiness in all this mess because you're not going to find it there. those kind of people, that kind of system, the way people are living, the direction they're going in, you are not going to find ultimate happiness there, even if they were to hand you $1 million. You're only going to find that happiness when you have inner peace, real inner peace and courage and faith, and your heart filled with a love that's unexplainable. And that this world, very few people even understand that kind of love. And then you will have found your happiness, and then you will be blessed, and then you will find your true place in this world. And it's just going to be such a different experience, because as Christ said, you'll be in the world, but not of it. You're going to be on a completely different plane in your heart and in your mind while you're right here in the middle of all of this. So listen, I hope that the first episode of the Return to the Spirit Side was a blessing to you. I hope it helped you in some way. I hope it makes you think. I hope it makes you have an aha moment in your life, because that's what shows like this are all about. Even 1159, it's not as spiritual, but putting information out there that's happening in this crazy world, and maybe a little spiritual flair here and there. It's all about making people think. It's about giving people hope and seeing this crazy place for what it is, and wanting to seek the truth, to seek something better, a better way of life. And I hope these podcasts do that for you listening right now. So listen, everyone, I appreciate you listening. It was great to do an episode of The Spirit Side. I thought this was really awesome. And if anybody out there listening, if you want to get on my reading schedule, if you would like an angel card reading, spiritual counseling, just someone to talk to. It's not all about hocus pocus what I do. I am an ordained spiritualist minister. I do minister things. I talk to people. I counsel with people. I give angel readings, sometimes with cards, sometimes with what just comes to me while I'm talking to them, because, that's how it works. I talk to people and I'll start getting little intuitive things, from God, from the angels, and I'll say, I'm just kind of feeling that there's this and there's this and there's this. And, it really helps people. It's a positive experience. So if you'd like to get on my schedule, my email and contact information will be below in the podcast description. Feel free to shoot me a line. I'm not one of these people that's going to, $150 an hour or, $120 for 20 minutes. I don't do that kind of thing. I'm going to give you a reading for anywhere between $20 and $30 for 30 minutes. And if you're broken, you don't have money, and you need some help, you need somebody to talk to, I'm still going to help, because that's what I do. I don't turn anybody away for any reason. So if that's something you're interested in, if you want to get on my reading schedule, contact me below. That's part of what I do. That's part of the spirit side. And I want to bring that a little bit to the front here in revamping the spirit side, and really just start putting my work out there, my work of trying to help people and make the world a better place. And maybe in helping others, those people will go out and help someone else, and they'll help someone else, and start a chain reaction of love and positivity rather than, negativity and greed, and it's just all about me. No, it's about us. It's about all of us. It's about loving one another. So again, I appreciate you all listening. And until next time, stay positive, stay in love, stay in faith, and keep walking on the spirit side.